Okay, it's Friday, January 27th. This is an end of the day and end of the week SPY recap. You can see here today after the momentum hammer bar yesterday, we followed through to the upside pretty strongly. A little bit of a sell-off at the end, but that's really not that significant at the moment. In terms of the weekly chart, we end up with a strong green week up, and that's after that hammer bar on the weekly chart. So you kind of were expecting higher as well, and the week played out that way. And as you were getting towards the end of the week, Thursday and Friday, you kind of sensed that this bar was going to really hold green, not fail in any way, and that should lead to higher prices next week. Now, the question is, do we get there immediately on Monday and Tuesday right out of the gates? You can see here, here's a high, here's a high, here's a high on the weekly charts. Those are all targets to be taken out. I don't know on the daily chart if first we come down and fill this little fair value gap between the high of this bar on Wednesday, the low of today's bar. We can come down on Monday first and then pause and, and then two down, two up type of thing. You never know. But in terms of the bigger picture, we're still until that weekly chart really fails, we're expecting higher prices. And again, the failure would be, maybe starting up strongly to start and then coming to the midpoint of that bar, or somehow we start at the midpoint of this bar, gap down big, which I don't expect, and get a two down week. But any kind of, right now we need a reversal on the weekly chart to really change our bias, which is still up. In terms of today, what happened was, even though the pre-market range looked like we might have a tricky day, actually it moved up really nicely on the first bar, and there was an opportunity to buy calls, and there was a really nice move to start the session up in the first three bars to take all kinds of quick profits in the morning if you wanted to do it. There was a pretty deep pullback here, there's no doubt. It gets a little tricky when you're starting to get exhaustion risk to the upside. There could be wild swings, and in this case we came down inside bar, and there was kind of a 2-1-2 kind of buy to kind of go back to the highs of the day. If you wanted to play it, it was, not crystal clear that was going to happen, but it was the only possible trade to take. Then once you took out those highs, there was an orderly pullback and maybe one more shot to buy it if you wanted to. But again, this afternoon stuff is really nothing that I typically play. For the morning trades, it was a really nice trade here, and there was actually other great stocks going up like Tesla and everything else. So it definitely it ended up with that opening price bar, a signal that the momentum bar from yesterday was going to follow through, and that's what happened. So we will see what happens next week. But again, we don't have to go up on Monday. There's a little exhaustion risk, but I think some point in here, whether we pause, whether it's for an entire day or week, at some point we're going to work our way up there, towards these targets here. You can see these triple tops to take out stops there, and we'll just have to see how that unfolds. And maybe there'll be a very clear two down, two up kind of movement. There'll be some really good opportunities, I think, to do that. And the small, the low probability is that there's some kind of major reversal here that negates all that. But until that happens, we'll be looking for good signals to get up to those highs, and likely next week.